I'm here with Ken Bannister, the author of The Maintenance Partnership Relationship, the key to all successful asset management programs. So the book explores the importance of relationships in maintenance. What inspired you to focus on this aspect? What challenges do maintenance teams typically face in fostering strong partnerships?
Okay, well, maintenance is a service, okay, and it's often thought of as a subservient area in many corporations. Of course, sales is understood, the accounting department is understood well, and they felt like they're all integral pieces of it. Engineering designs the product, manufacturing makes the product, and if anything breaks down, we have the maintenance department. And we try to say it's so we've got to keep the equipment running, and but maintenance is a service, yes, it is, and it relies on partnerships to function. That are crucial to the success of any corporation in terms of manufacturing corporation and the asset management program that's in place. And so there are multiple relationships that go, and we've broken it down into there are 12 specific relationships that maintenance is actually 13, but I've written about 12 specifically. The 12 is the 12 circle, and we're looking at about peer relationships. Maintenance have to interact with each other, and then they have to interact with number two is the planning and scheduling department. So the work is planned and scheduled, so they have to be able to turn up with the right parts in the right place at the right time, and ensure that they can actually perform the work in the maintenance work in that regard. So the next is the relationship with production and operations. So it's that relationship that's formed with production that will give them the equipment to actually work on when they turn up, and this is great for efficiency. There's the engineering department. The engineering department is the one that designs the equipment, brings in any of the components that are required in terms of new equipment, and before anything is built, there's a relationship that needs to be understood that it needs to be maintained. In order to maintain it correctly, they both have to listen to each other in terms of what the requirements are of the machine and the requirements are of the department to actually manufacture to the level they need to manufacture. And so it's uptime. Then there's the accounting department. And of course, we have to deal with accounts. We have to be accountable for how much we spend and what our budget is on an annual basis and work that maintenance budget out. Then we have the relationship with the purchasing department, who goes out and buys parts for us on our behalf if we don't do it internally within our own department. Most don't. You have to go through the purchasing department. So there are suppliers that are preferred, and there are suppliers with long lead times, and we need to keep certain things within stock on a regular basis so we don't run out of them. So there's that. We have to have that purchasing requirement relationship in place so it works seamlessly. Human resources. If we need new staffing, if we need to be trained, we have to be in sync with how the HR department deals with and certifies people on our behalf, and how we get training in place. The sales department. Now, everyone says, why does maintenance need to be involved with the sales department? Well, when a salesperson goes out, if they oversell the delivery capacity of the organization, then you are going to get maintenance-related failures.
Yeah.
The equipment can't keep up. If you're doing it at at 10% over its design rate, you are going to get excessive failures. So sales has to know what the capacity is, and in terms of what the maintenance requirements are. So they need to work collectively there. Then we have contractual obligations with contractors. When we don't have the internal staffing, or the right kind of staffing, we need to bring in outside agencies to perform that work. Typically, in terms of a building envelope, you wouldn't have many experts in terms of roll-up doors, which are actually very dangerous. There's a lot of kinetic energy in them, and so we usually bring outside agencies in to do those, to do the floor or to do the roof. We don't normally keep those in-house. And sometimes we'll need to bring in specialists for the equipment if it's highly specialized. and have those relationships with contractors. Or you may have a contractual agreement where someone comes in and performs all the maintenance on a contract. So therefore, so the maintenance aspect has to deal with that types of contracts and how they work. Then there's the original equipment manufacturer who makes the equipment. Sometimes you'll need drawings, you'll need to get understanding, you'll need training through the HR department. And there's lots of elements in terms of the spare part catalog that you need with regards to the design of the equipment, when it's being built and when it's being run, okay, later on. And then you have the vendors and the suppliers who supply all of the maintenance requirements, nuts and bolts, bearings, and all of those elements. And so we need to have those suppliers so they can supply us based on our needs, or we can get some type of a program where we pay as we go. They're constantly stocking for us. So there are different relationships with vendors and suppliers that need to be nurtured and looked after. And then, of course, if we are certified for any specific type of industry, for instance, if you're getting certified to the ICML 55, the lubrication standard, or to the ISO 55001, which is the asset management standard, there are going to be auditors. And then they will audit the maintenance department. So we have these relationships to understand how we could be audited and to perform self-audits within the corporation to make sure that we're on track with what we need to do. And finally, the last one is technology. Although there's no people involved in this one, but we all have, and the technology is on the machinery. Lots of people need to understand, maintenance needs to understand the computerization aspect of things, how it can make machineries do certain things and control it in that regard. And the new technologies are coming out in terms of the cell phones have been amazing for doing maintenance now in terms of taking a picture of what the problem is, sending that out to get some to the OEM or to a contractor to actually help them understand what the job is. So being comfortable with technology is a really valuable asset. So as you can see, there are basically 12 elements in the circle, which I've defined it in a circle. The book is broken down into each element in terms of how that relationship is structured and how it's helpful to understand that that's how you need to set your asset management program up. So all of those are being interacted and interwoven, and maintenance becomes an integral part of the production process and of the corporation.
Mm-hmm. And you compare successful maintenance partnerships to a strong marriage, right? You emphasize the importance of communication and tangible deliverables. What practical step can maintenance teams take to improve alignment with their partners in general?
Okay, well, if you have an ISO program in place, you will also have a structural breakdown of how, or a work breakdown structure. You'll also have a structural of how the organization is put together and all the elements that need to be aligned and result to have a harmonious production process. So you would have corporate interdepartment relationships. And that's with management, with production, engineering, accounting, quality, the HR department, IT, sales, health and safety, of which maintenance is heavily involved with in all of those elements. Within that's you have an intra-department relationship then. So inside the maintenance department, we have planning, scheduling, lubrication, predictive maintenance, inventory management within ourselves. And we also have external relationships. And so that's broken down into contracts, into services, suppliers, rentals when we rent equipment that we don't ordinarily keep inside, auditors, the transportation of getting to and from the job, especially if you've got multiple sites, or it's an outside or a very large plant like an automotive plant. Transportation, you've got to get across the other side of the plant, and sometimes that's half a mile away. So bicycles, little electric cars, those all have to be maintained as well. And then, of course, we have consultants, which is like myself. You work with consultants to move things forward. And you also work with the clients. The client wants to know that their products are being made well and that there's good reliability and there's good control on the quality of the product going out the door.
Mm-hmm. And so the book mentions also measuring and tracking what can be controlled. So what key metrics or indicators should maintenance teams focus on to assess and improve their collaboration with partners?
I mean, there are a number of KPIs in the book, key performance
Mm-hmm.
indicators laid out in the book. And maintenance has a few. I mean, it's mean time between failure, understanding when failures occur, and break them down into what fails within those failure brackets, and how often they fail, and then try and pedal back and understand what's the root cause of the failure. Is it because we're approaching it wrong? We're overrunning the equipment past its design factor, or because we're using substandard parts? So those performance cases can be run with those elements. Also, the success of programs. So, for instance, if you're running a lubrication program, if you do it effectively, you should get a reduced amount of energy consumption on your assets. So you need to measure it before and afterwards, and then look at what the kilowatt hour draw is, and that. So it meets into sustainability programs. It meets into energy management programs which are corporate wide. So maintenance has a big impact on all of those, and of course uptime. Uptime of the equipment and availability of the equipment. So if you're doing anything like overall equipment effectiveness, the first part of it is availability, and then quality. So maintenance can affect quality significantly if the machine is operating at a substandard level. And it depends, especially if it's dies or anything like that. Punch and dies or anything where you're trying to hold correct tolerances. Lubrication has a big part in that, and also the maintainability of the assets themselves. So they're operating correctly and at the right speed and at the right calibration. So maintenance has all of those elements, and of course then there's the throughput. The throughput is very, very important for production, that you're making all of those parts correctly at the right quality, and maintenance department has significant amount of input into that. And that is where you start. Those key performance indicators can be utilized with the production department to help ensure that to get the throughput, we have to maintain the equipment at a certain level, and then set up those markers in place to show that we're meeting that level, and we can continue that level with the right kind of maintenance and the right kind of approach toward maintenance.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned also the role of technology in maintenance partnerships. Are there any specific tools or trends that you believe will shape the future?
Well, a lot of those tools are there right now, but we've got the Internet of Things,
Mm-hmm.
and we've got the internet access into big data banks, and so a lot of the SCADA systems that are on a lot of equipment, we can tap into them to understand actually what's happening with the equipment. Maintenance could get access to them. Of course, we've got predictive maintenance tools that we can utilize as well, which we can look at. We can look at quality. We can look at heat transfer. We can look at energy. We can look through the technology of infrared systems, through vibration analysis. We can put sensors onto the equipment that can be come back through the computer control system, and then set out a warning or give us an advice note in real time. And then it's having our approach towards maintenance and the planning and scheduling and getting the equipment to actually do something with it. If we get a warning and we ignore it, then there is no point in putting a warning in place anyway. You're on a run to fail. So we want to be ahead of the curve on that, and to trust the technology that's in place, and to set it up in a meaningful way that aids not only production but also maintenance. So there's cross-pollination on both sides, from maintenance to the operation side of it as well. So technology is getting better and better and better. Is our manpower approach towards, and our maintenance management approach, does it meet the requirement? If we get the alarm state, can we manage that alarm state effectively?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. And to finish off, is there anything else you'd like to add about the insights or lessons this book has to offer? Any key message?
The key message is that maintenance is an integral partner to all the other partners, the 12 partners that are in there. And I think that if in a true a true industrial program for getting parts out and to be effective, everyone has to realize that maintenance is an integral part of that equation. And this book is a good one, not only for the maintenance department to understand who they are, where they sit, but also for management to read to understand how maintenance integrates and what. But if it doesn't integrate correctly, how much it can affect the bottom line of the corporation as a result.
Yeah, that's a great message. Okay, I will link the book below and where you can order it. And thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.